Meeting for June 28th, 2017. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So just hold my chain and
Okay. We'll start off with public comment.
am I on the agenda or am I
Public
a public
comment.
comment?
Yeah, you are on the agenda,
Okay,
but you're down a little ways.
all right. So I'll wait.
We have no public comment then, I guess. Okay. Do we have the minutes? I guess don't have
We
any
do
minutes.
not.
Okay. Anything else?
Community update.
Do we have a community update?
Yes. Mike and I attended the Department of Administration budget training last Friday. And in the interest of full disclosure with the new disclosure bill, Mike and I did ride together in the car to and from that meeting in Great Falls with Debbie and Michelle. We didn't talk about any county business or make any decisions. But we also had a mosquito board meeting last week. We had a Board of Housing hearing with Becky Bramberg, and I thought that went really well. Even though we came in right at the line, it was great to rally so many people together for the cause of something good for our community. So thank you, Becky.
Thank you, thank you.
We had a weed board meeting and a budget hearing, Board of Health meeting, and a couple of community development meetings last week. It was pretty jam-packed.
I went to most of the mosquito, weed, the budget training in Great Falls, bus contract, meeting with the school and transportation people, and attended the Townsend Health System board meeting yesterday.
Yeah, I attended some of the meetings, phone calls, everything just business as usual. Go ahead with some mail going to everybody, COS. Here's from they're gonna get rid of the Durango Sheriff's Office. It says commission each to sign. But I don't know, I guess you probably know, Ann, who signs for sure, and we're at on it, there's enough different lines. I'm signing the wrong place and foul up the title.
We received an email last week that with the sale, the special that Broadwater Ford was having and the insurance issues with Mason's vehicle, as well as the one that overheated on the trip down to the funeral in Belgrade, that the Sheriff's Department was looking at taking advantage of the special and exchanging those two older vehicles for newer ones. I did give my approval via email, so that they could take advantage of the special, and would like to, unless you guys have discussion, move that we go ahead and support that so we can make it official.
I had a conversation with Wynn on the phone. I'll second that motion to do that. That was just for the Durango, right? Because the other one is still held up.
Still held up, but they can still actually pursue getting the newer vehicle to replace it.
And still get the discount.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
what I supported in my, in the email, and I guess to make the motion official, is I support exchanging the vehicle for a newer one that overheated, getting a newer vehicle to replace Deputy Moore's, and taking advantage of the special sale they had at Broadwater Ford last weekend.
then, or we'll have to go take it up to Doug to find out for sure?
Yeah, take it up to the treasurer, and I think probably you would sign it, but I'm not sure. Check with them.
Get it back over here.
Was there a vote on that motion?
Was there a second?
There was a
Yes,
second.
I said.
Okay. Move the second on the motion as stated. Any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll go to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Here's from the MDT. For comment stuff, if you wanna go online and fill out a questionnaire or anything, or call them at a certain number. Here's a copy of that lawsuit on the Meow's Glory. Everybody wants to look it over. Corey's probably the main one on that one. Here's a Robert Pessett Associates, this is on the airport project. You know, there's some items, places to be signed in.
Well, we went through the process of advertising this already, so I move that we follow the process and move forward.
I second.
You moved and seconded, move forward on this here, from the airport. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Sign your life away.
I don't know if it's just for me or if every other sign, I'll have to go through it. We have approved claims here in the amount of $82,414.47.
Move we pay the approved claims in the stated amount.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded to pay the claims in the amount of $82,414.47. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Central Lake and Chargers.
Oops.
There's some news for state and local governments. Still, when it comes to Jim Hahn, Board of Commissioners.
Mike, you'll find a lot of the mail, they don't necessarily change our names through the years.
Yeah.
I get a lot still from that has Jim's name on it, but it's still for me. You'll still get mail
Stuff from
intended
me.
for you
That's
that
what I
has her
normally
name on it,
take.
yeah. And it's by district. This is the Esri report that Brian mentioned at our meeting on
There's
housing.
Century.
This is that gives us our information on growth in the economy and the
Oh, okay.
outlook for our county and for the state,
ESRI.
yes.
This would be Department of Revenue. Evidently, the county owns some ground in Registry. Wonder why we would be taxed for that.
They have to send those out to everybody, Franklin.
Oh, yeah, it's an unknown owner. Northwest Energy, Senior Citizens. Silos Campground. For Verizon, and the commissioners. Word. Registration license for the airport. Receipt of the pill money, $663,000 for, $448.
And that is a, Mike and I were talking about this earlier, it's a 13% increase from last year. Nicole's gonna be here or not.
She's working on it. If you want to, why don't you go ahead and listen to Becky and then.
That's what I thought we'd probably do, we'd jump ahead.
Thank
Bradford.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. I sent you a letter and copied Jessica Arnold with the Department of Revenue. I sent the letter on May 22nd, and it's about a property I own here in town, 212 South Cherry, which is a very modest little house. I just put a new roof on it. It has a carport and a garage. The garage is not heated. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. And for a number of years, I've thought, well, the property taxes on this house seem kind of strange and high to me compared to my other little houses I only own little modest houses, so I had quite a bit to compare them to, and, so I contacted Jessica about this and said, do you have any idea what is driving this? It doesn't have a nice lot, it's not a super nice house. The garage is just, like cinder blocks, homemade. What do you think is going on? So she went out and looked, and what's taken place is when I bought 212 South Cherry, there was a lot next door right on the corner. And I should have bought it because somebody shortly after I bought it, built a house on that little tiny lot on the corner, and that was in 2009, and somehow the tax records are reflecting this brand new house and my semi-funky little house all on the lot of 212 South Cherry. So I'm paying taxes for what I own and this brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath house next door. And she said, oops. So in order for me to be reimbursed for the difference of what it should have been all these years, I have to make a formal request with you. Now, I don't know what that amount is, and Jessica can't figure it out unless you ask her to. So,
Okay.
there we go. I'm asking you to ask Jessica to determine what amount that is. I'm guessing it's in the neighborhood, just so you have a feel for it, of $400-ish for 9 years. And I apologize for not figuring this out sooner. I just thought, well, that part of town, or maybe they replaced the sewers, or I don't know.
So you've been charged this overage for 9 years?
Yes. Ever since they built the little house, the nice house next door to my little house.
I would like to move that we ask Jess to determine how long this has been happening, what the total per year is, and then work with Doug's office also on putting together a policy. Because as we know, even just from today's agenda, Becky's not the only one. So we need to have some kind of a policy so people know what to expect.
That's a great idea.
I would second that motion.
Motion made, seconded, as stated. Any other discussion? Not we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Any other questions for me?
No, it's unfortunate that you and others have been overtaxed.
Well,
So
it's,
we'll do what we can.
mistakes can happen. I'm certainly not. I mean, I should have said, what the heck, a long time ago. So, I don't know what I'm doing.
Did Department of Revenue, one, have they corrected this, and two, did they offer any refunds at all for any years at this point?
I did get a statement from the Department of Revenue. Actually, I got several. I'm trying to think if it's about this one. You know how you can't quite read some of what, I cannot interpret necessarily what, I have to go find a document that has the geocode on it. It doesn't say 212 South Cherry. That would be too much. And it talks about, so the answer is, I don't know.
Okay, I'd like our policy to include a letter to Department of Revenue, letting them know, number one, and number two, asking them to pay a portion of these as we move forward. It's not specific to you, Becky, I don't think it'll make a difference in what you'll see, but I think for the county, we should at least put the request to Department of Revenue that they pay these refunds when it's their error. And we'll kick in when they don't, because they won't.
They won't?
They're pretty notorious for saying, yes, we made the mistake, but you have to pay up.
They might 1 year.
And if we can get 1 year, I think it's well worth it.
the money is divided between you and the city and the Department of Revenue, right?
And the school,
And the school.
yeah. A lot of partners. But it's still not fair to you citizens to be paying somebody else's property tax.
Well, and I think what happened is, according to Jess, she thought that the people next door, they're paying their property taxes also.
Right, oh,
Yeah,
oh,
'Cause-
interesting.
because well, that's our assumption. Because it's a separate address, it's a separate geocode. And you know, if you look on the GIS, at the photo of 212 South Cherry, you can see the little better, nice house in the picture. But there's a lot line. So, let's push the fact that it's their error.
Right,
So 212 South Cherry is at the house on the corner?
No, it's just to the north of the corner. 212, the one on the corner is the shape of a double wide, not it's a stick-built house, but it's that rectangle, and then 212 South Cherry is green and has a roof that slopes forward. And it's a brand new roof. And this week it's getting brand new windows. And then it has a carport directly behind it, and then a pretty good sized garage on the alley made out of cinder blocks. But it's really old. I mean, part of the main house is like 1912. Anything else you want me to do or ask about or find out for you?
I think the rest is our homework,
Okay,
and then what I expect we'll be doing is sending you and the others letters, letting you know what we've done.
okay,
I would expect we'll include a copy of our new policy, so that you're aware of that too, and then, also I expect there'll be a check,
super.
yeah.
Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you for
Okay.
paying your double taxes, we
Hey.
appreciate it.
No problem. And I went ahead and when I wrote, you know, I still had a tax payment to make in the end of May, and I made it.
Nice, thank you.
Right, well, I'm like, that would screw everything. Thank you very much, all of you, and I'll be in touch soon, and we'll take another stab at Crow Creek Apartments.
Sounds good.
Nicole?
Should have had these already organized when I was sitting there, sorry. So what I'm gonna pass around is a full-size map of the county, showing your districts. The second page is a proposed city view, and I'm seeing now, it might be zoomed out a bit, but the first page in your packet here bumps that line up, so that Elm Street area that Commissioner Delger asked about, moving that so that line's not askew. So the first page I think is pretty explanatory. Just the entire county, the districts are mapped out there. I held the highways, where Highway 285 ends and becomes Keating Gulch, is not labeled on here, but that's the road that is finishing out the districts between 1 and 3. So that's the first page. The second page is this one that does not say 2017.2, just City View 2017. So this one I pulled District 3 up to East Street. If you're looking in the City View there, the bottom, so that'd be southwest corner of the city. I pulled District 3 up to East Street, and District 1 stopped at East Street. So that's one version, and then these are the population counts in the bottom corner there in the legend, so that shows your numbers. The total is 5,503. I believe 5610 I didn't double check that, but I think our population for the 2010 census was 5,610. So this is off by a little bit. I lost some people, 107, but I gave myself a small margin of error to try and pick up all of these census blocks, and I can't imagine that it would be all just in one district that they're missing, you know, so if you spread it out amongst the three, the average is, you know, roughly 35. This third page, 2017.2. This is the original proposal that I brought to you several months ago, where District 3, again, bottom southwest corner of the city there, District 3 boundary line is Elm Street, as well as District 1 boundary line Elm Street. And so all I did was pull up that line because, as I said, Commissioner Delger asked me to make that more even, make that straight. So really the only change between the two are those Elm Street residents south of Townsend. Either are we putting them in District 1 or in District 3. And you can see the population, you know, it really does become more even when we look to, well, slightly more even. There's a difference of 29 people. Population is 29 in that Elm Street block, if you will. So we're just moving those 29 people.
That's the only change, is that Elm Street thing then, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, the rest of it I kept the same, because I believe that was the only change. At least that was the only one I could recall. So if there was something else, my apologies. But out of our, gosh, what was it, February meeting when I brought these to you?
So it looks like the numbers are closer in the first option, and there's a bigger disparity between 1 and 3 in the second option.
That's correct.
That would be really the only difference I see. This has been pretty widely talked about. Have you heard anybody that has said, please don't change the boundaries because I've been planning to run for commission and you'll put me in the wrong district?
No.
Okay.
Because you are correct, they do have to reside there for 2 years.
Right.
So if this was adopted today, wouldn't that mean 2019, or would it mean 2020? 2020, gosh, that seems so long
I know.
away, but it's not. 2020.
Yeah. Not the next go around, but the one after that.
So it would be 2020
2020.
would they be eligible
Yeah.
then? Yes.
And we already voted, I think last winter, last fall, on these. So this would be a change to that, but we're only 6-7 months later, so it shouldn't make a difference to that.
And the next census will take place in 2020, so I will have data in 2021, so we can do this again in 2020, 2021 to be more timely. Because I have been averaging about 8 new addresses a week, and
Wow.
80 to 90% of those are coming from the south end. The south end is really, really growing all of a sudden, again, so.
That's gonna add more to District 3.
That will add more to 3, but that, we won't know that until 2021, when they release the data. So, I mean, I'm
think-
just, you know, I know from my own experience in my office that it's really growing down there again.
I'm not surprised with the growth in Bozeman.
Yeah, you know, and I get people, I always ask them, when they come in, you know, why are you moving to Townsend? Where are you moving from? What's bringing you here? And, you know, gosh, the majority of the time people say, you know, we just can't afford to live in Bozeman anymore. It's just crazy there. We don't want our kids going to school there. You know, the older couples come here that, you know, they don't have a mortgage anymore, but they can't afford the taxes. And so they're moving here.
Yeah.
Which is, it's sad for them, but, you know, we're happy to have them, and, you know, they're happy to be here in a smaller town, and, you know, so. And a lot of the developments in the south end are starting to fill up, as well as, you know, more this way. The lake is a huge attraction. I think we take it for granted a bit here because it's always been there and it'll always be here and we can always go there, but, you know, as folks from Bozeman, they sure love the lake for recreation purposes, so.
I was talking to a guy who was out on his boat, I think I told you this. He ran into some people boating, then they got to chit-chatting on the lake. And the other guys in the other boat said, he said, where are you guys from? We're from Bozeman. Where are you from? This guy says, here. oh, you get to live here. You know, we look at Bozeman as, you know, that's the fastest growing county in the nation. We look at it as, you know, oh, Bozeman, we're paradise right here.
Yep.
And you're right, we take it for granted.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Oh,
So that was slightly off topic, I'm sorry, but I pertinent information for you to know that the South End I think we're going to see these numbers be much, much different in 2021.
and Mike, with this decision, I think it's 14, isn't it? The 14 years that we actually redistrict again. So it'll be 2024, it's the 4 years, so 04, 14, 24, so 2024 we'll redistrict again. So even though we'll be using the 2020
2020.
numbers, we won't be changing right at that point. We have to do it through the legislative process. So this will be for a couple of years.
Because when did we change the legislative districts? Of course, that was a while ago that we went to testify on those districts.
Kelly had one term in his old district, and I think he changed his second term, so it was 6.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, he's in his last 2 years right now, so 4 years ago.
So we wouldn't be redistricting until 24?
Correct. The process is lengthy, but we will vote in and approve in 24.
So by the time you get to the 24, the District 2 is gonna have to be expanded, most likely.
Most likely,
Because District 3 and District 1 are gonna continue to grow.
exactly. You know, and we have the advantage of all of your districts converging right in town. So it's pretty, I don't want to say easy because it's not a very easy process. The census blocks they're very small, and you have to count each block to find the population. Anyway, easy to manipulate the city. Those lines within the city. I shouldn't say manipulate the city, that sounded horrible. Manipulate the lines within the city. We can pull blocks differently, to where District 2 may end up being this whole southeast part of town can be absorbed there, and, because population in the south and District 3 would be growing so much. So, not a terribly cumbersome process. The longest process is going through and counting each of the blocks, to pull each little piece out and then convert it to usable data.
Where would Shoebriggs, since that's really the only subdivision left, what district,
3.
does that fall in 2 or 4,
3.
3?
But both ways, it's in 3, both ways, because that's on I Street. I Street is south of this H Street that's identified on here. So in both options that you have here, it's District 3.
Right now, Townsend has the luxury of being represented by all 3 commissioners. The other communities in the county do not have that luxury.
Right.
And if push come to shove, if it had to turn out that only 2 commissioner districts represented Townsend, if that's the way you had, but that's in the future, but I mean, it's something to look at, to consider that.
Yeah, absolutely. And those lines can be moved anywhere. Highways just seem to be a very...
Right, because you can tell where they are. It's not some imaginary line that
Yep,
you need a surveyor to figure out for
where you are. Yep. Someone had asked me, when I was figuring these out, why don't you just use section lines? Well, first of all, I don't know where the section lines are physically, when you're standing on the ground. And these census blocks don't follow section lines all the time.
So you got this 70-some thousand acres that was a no man's land, you got that in there now, took off that section line.
Are you talking about on the? Oh, yes, this.
Like
You know,
it-
and that was just my interpretation of the way it was written. You know, I had lengthy conversations with other citizens that said, "Well, I can see what they meant." Absolutely, I think we all can see what they meant, but to take it literally to look at that, it seemed to be, non-existent. But it is shown on here, and when I write the description, I'll be very certain, because that you know that's another another item, I guess, on this list that I will have to do for you is write the description of each of these boundaries. But I'll also run them past most likely Bernadette and Dan or Don as our examining land surveyor and just have him verify that what I'm writing makes sense.
Were those people in that district counted before or not?
They were counted. Yep, they absolutely were counted, and they absolutely, you know, they were still able to vote. They were still represented. The description was
The
was
written
so big.
legal description was on the fuzzy side.
It was
for-
extremely.
Yeah,
And didn't we find it came from 70 something?
yeah, right, when everybody knew what they were talking about.
Absolutely, and you know, and I think we all still knew what they were talking about, but to literally interpret what was written.
Right, right. Times have changed since then.
People were still represented, it's just the words on paper
Didn't
needed
match
to be
where they were
corrected,
at.
right?
Yep.
And they were right when they were written, it's just times changed, so we just have to update the words.
Going back through some of the records in Ann's office, you know, turn right at the Red Johnson barn.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, it made sense,
Right?
Absolutely.
and now, oh geez, I don't even know who the
And
who
you
the
go
Johnson
up
was.
to this old tree on the hill.
Mhm.
I hope the tree is still there because that's the way the legal description on
Somebody
that
cut
piece
it
of
down.
property is.
Yeah. So you know, I think we get better as times change. I'm sure there'll be, you know, 50 years from now, somebody looking back at this meeting and say, "Oh my gosh, why did they do it that way, or why did they write it that way?" I hope not. I hope that this all makes sense in the future. But
I think they'll be saying, oh, thank goodness they actually started doing things right. Well, as far as the changes, the difference between, the biggest difference in population is with, in the first view, is 20. And that's between District 2 and District 3, the lowest to the highest. If you look at the 2017.2, the difference between the high and the low, which would be 1864 and 1815, is 49. So in the interest of keeping things as even as possible, I would suggest that we go with the the second page, which is just the 2017 city view. And I'll make a motion to that effect, that we change the approved district lines for the city of Townsend to reflect the proposed Commission District's 2017 city view.
I'll second for discussion, and the reason is if we're looking at that, we're only talking of, you know, District 2 is not gonna change, but District 3 and District 1 only have an 8-person difference right now in the one that you're proposing, but in the other one, it's a 50-person difference, but the south end's growing faster than District 1 is. So in 4 years, you're probably gonna err in what, 7 years? Most likely District 3 is gonna take over District 1. But in this one, it's already over.
Except the only thing we're really talking about here is the city of Townsend. So the growth at the south end of the county has very little bearing on the city of Townsend. So if you look at just the city of Townsend, there is not an ability for the city right now to grow because it's landlocked. So these numbers shouldn't change by all that much. Now, these numbers, of course, are countywide, but this is what we're actually addressing, is just the city of Townsend.
As far as boundaries now.
Right, so these people's needs are different than these people's needs. So keeping this equal is actually what I was focused on,
Okay, I see.
rather than trying to accommodate the growth. And we don't know, next year, there could be one of these ranchers that sells their property, and we end up with a spectacular subdivision that attracts, you know, a couple hundred people that wanna live really close to a small town in a place with gorgeous views. And that switches the whole thing. So we can't necessarily make decisions based on,
Future acquisitions.
right, yeah,
Pretty
'Cause
much
we
have
just
to
don't
go
know.
with what it is right now.
right. And that's why we get to change it every 2 years, or 10 years, because things do change. And I don't have a strong preference, I was just looking at the equity, aspect.
So if the south end did perpetuate its growth that it has right now, would you end up taking this small piece out of town and making District 3 would no longer be involved in the city?
Most likely, I'm thinking that's what I would do because that's I hate to say the easiest, but really the easiest way. And I fully agree with what Ann's saying. I think that we do have the luxury of having the city be represented by all three commissioners. You know, it's really nice that you all converge right there in the city and have different parts of it, because the city is an integral part of the county. But it seems like it would be the easiest way to move that line. And the cleanest, and not even just the ease of it, but the cleanest way to move that line.
It has to be contiguous, doesn't it?
The
The districts?
The districts,
Yeah.
yeah, so, you know, this Highway 12 East into Broadway, you know, looking at it right now, I could easily see dropping that south, you know, 1 block, 2 block, 3 blocks, whichever it takes to get that population. Because it is a concentrated area of population to where we could easily move just south 1 block and get a lot of people out of one district and into another. And that's what I was hoping to accomplish here. And also when I redid the voting districts, you know, I concentrated mostly on the city. So, and also for the ease of these outlying areas, I'm not taking away from you know the people that live in the city, but you know when you live in the city, it's a little more flexible, in my opinion, and I think I feel comfortable saying that because I live in town. But if you live in, say you live in Toston, and all of a sudden that line jumps over to Lombard instead of the highway or something different, and you are now in a whole different district that you've never been in, nor have you ever planned to be in, because you feel very firmly planted in the south end of the county. It's a little more of a hardship, I think, on folks. So, and no different for District 1, you know, I mean, we could, you know, move that line and, you know, take some Indian Creek or some Springville folks and kind of make a wonky shape out of it, but.
The cleaner you can keep the lines, the better
And the
off
less,
you are.
yeah, the less disruption to the people living in those districts, so. Because, you know, ultimately, I mean, I think that's what we're all trying to accomplish here, is to keep this equitable and minimize disruption for the public, you know, for the citizens of this county. because there will be some disruption, and I'm sure that, you know, at least one person will be affected negatively by this change. Yeah, maybe not, but there's a possibility, so, but if we can minimize any hardship or disruption for people, I think that's best, but, ultimately, I didn't bring data, I'm sorry, from the existing boundaries, but I know right now they're way off. The numbers are, I don't even remember off the top of my head what they were.
I
should
can't
grab my
see
file.
where it would really bother anybody, because the changes are going to be so that if anybody is looking at voting, they've got plenty of time to think about it. And everybody votes on every, it isn't as though if you're in District 3, you can only vote for that commissioner. You vote countywide anyway, so it's just a matter of, if somebody's running, they need to know where their district is.
Yep. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no different than wards in the city.
99% of the people could care less.
Really,
Well,
you know,
you can tell by the vast populace
amazing
out here.
turnout.
Yes.
This is riveting information.
I don't have anything else.
Was there a form of a motion?
There was, and it was seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded, no further discussion then. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Good work, Nicole. We'll take that project off your desk.
So the process, once I get the description, I've never done this before, so I'm asking you for guidance, but once I get the description written and vetted, Then I bring it-
Then there will have to be a resolution. done.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So then I.
Because there will have to be a
Yeah.
resolution voted on.
To adopt
Yeah.
the boundaries.
So I would
Okay.
assume you'd have to have a hearing for the resolution.
Okay, okay, so I'll get hustling on those, on the written description, because I wasn't gonna fuss with it until I knew what they looked like.
Good girl. Yeah, work smart instead of hard.
Right,
I think then we have to put the resolution to the judge.
you do, okay, all right. So I will write it up, get it vetted, and then work with Corey, I assume, on the resolution. I mean, you want a legal opinion on the resolution, so, okay.
Yeah, you be smart.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
One other thing, board member appointments.
Oh, thank you.
I have 2 planning board members, and I didn't bring the letters because I'm trying to hustle and print these, but I'll bring them. 2 individuals interested in serving on the planning board, and the planning board met and approved these members. Lori Tribble, South End, Tim's Diesel, and Dennis Miller lives out on River Road. I think more towards the Townsend area than the Townsend area, but.
No, well, it's kind of,
Is it? Okay. So those are the 2 individuals. Dennis came to the last meeting
And the planning board approved.
and the planning board approved them. Dennis Miller, I've never met him in before, but he's very, very smart. Really, really interested and involved in mineral rights, which is something that we have never had on the planning board before, so I'd be very excited to have.
I can understand him being
Yeah.
interested in that.
Yeah, okay. Was he a former teacher? Is that right?
No,
Or
comedian. He was on TV.
professor? Wait a minute. Slightly gullible this morning, thank you.
they've been in construction, they've been in mining though.
He was,
Family all
okay.
along through the years.
Oh, okay.
So that's where, and he had that mill there at one time, partner in that, so that's part of the mineral rights. The rest of the time he's been in construction.
Oh, okay.
I would move to appoint both Lori Trimble and Dennis Miller to the planning board for the initial 1-year appointment. Well, 1.5 years at this
Perfect.
point.
I'll second that motion.
And moved and seconded, Lori Dribble and Dennis Miller on the planning board, all in favor? Motion passed.
Hey, before you go, the land acquisition with BOR.
Yes.
Mia is working on putting together the contracts, But what we need to do is pull together the board, and there needs to be a new board created that'll work in partnership with the Parks and Rec Board and the Trust Board.
Oh, okay.
But this new board needs to be, and we agreed on this, boy, a year and a half ago with the city. So there'll be 2 members from the city, 2 members from the county, 1 member at large that both the county and the city agree on. And then when we get that done, people filling that board, then we'll need to work with a member from the golf course, the softball field, and the Rod and Gun Club, and then the commission and the city council
Okay.
on some of those questions. So,
So
would
the-
you start
Yeah.
the process of getting the board, the 5 board?
So what is,
What
I don't
time
even
is the
know,
board
yeah.
going to have?
I can't even think of how we would, I mean, you know, to solicit for, Board
About,
members.
community recreation, does that work? That way it's city and county.
Community Recreation Board, and the purpose, because I always get this question.
It's a liaison committee between the city and the county and the Rod and Gun Club, the golf course, and the softball club. And their opportunity is to also develop recreation on 10 acres that is undefined at this point.
Okay. Because I think, I mean, I'm sure this board is aware, I know Commissioner Delger is our Parks and Rec Board, has not been active for about 1.5 years now.
Yeah.
You know, we just kind of, we lost steam, we didn't have any projects, we weren't sure what was gonna happen with this county piece of property that we were looking at developing, and, so, could it be potentially I mean, if members, which I guess I don't have the final say, but if members of the Parks and Rec were to reach out and say, hey, can we jump on this? Would you be willing to have those folks at least apply or throw their name in the hat to serve on here, so, okay.
Absolutely. And I would think what we could do is ask the city,
Mhm.
you know, are they okay with that too?
Mhm.
And
And,
then
yeah, and
we
I'm
can
not
appoint-
necessarily saying taking the Parks and Rec board and converting it to this board, you know, of course we'd advertise for it, but, if there are any members that are interested, then they can serve on this, okay.
Yeah.
So when you're saying to city, you're talking 2 residents of the city and 2 residents of the county.
Ideally,
Okay.
but it doesn't have to necessarily be a resident as much as an appointee of the
Oh,
city.
okay,
So if somebody lives just outside of the city limits and the city council says we want them to be our appointee,
okay,
just like the airport board, we could go for that, I
okay,
would think.
okay. So I should work with the city in vetting members for them, and I'll work with the county on members for you, and then, any extra, interested individuals could be an at-large that, who would appoint the at-large? Would it just be agreed upon by the city and the county,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
The idea was to keep it odd numbered,
Mhm.
but not give a hand up to either side.
Mhm.
City or the county, we're equal.
Perfect, okay. I will get working on that as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole.
Planning board public hearing today at 3, and then at 3:30 I have 2 subdivisions to submit to the board, so growth is not stopping. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
All right,
Mine came
Thank
down
you.
to Pool Hall today.
Dang it. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Robin Madison. I work for Senator Chester's office
Oh,
in
okay.
Helena. Hi,
Meet you there.
hi, nice to meet you. I'm President Price, because I know I haven't met either of you guys
Frank
before.
Slipper, Mike Delger, Laura Olbert, and Ann Rouser.
Wow.
I do
We'll
not.
share.
Nice to see you
Nice to
again.
see you again. Yeah.
Robin comes to all the MACO conferences, Mike, so she knows most of the commissioners from that.
Yeah. So I'm fairly new to the Helena area. Well, not new. I've been in the Helena area for about a year, and I was in the Great Falls area for 5 years. So I knew a lot of those commissioners over there, and so I've been in the Helena area for almost a year. So Time has gone by fast. So, but I just wanted to check in with you all and kind of update you, I guess, a little bit about what the senator's doing in DC. But I just kind of wanted to find out what was new in your county and some of your new concerns, or if you have maybe the same concerns you've had in the past. So,
Nothing for me, I don't think anybody else does.
any questions about, I think I sent you that release yesterday about the PILT money.
Yes, thank you.
So luckily that is coming this year. But PILT is from the president's budget that he just released about a month ago. They cut about 70 million in PILT, so we don't know what that will look like for Montana if the budget goes through as he has proposed. But it could be a pretty substantial swipe for Montana counties. They could see maybe a 50% cut at least in funding. So that's a big issue that we've been hearing from a lot of counties. Also, USDA Rural Development, the president's budget proposes a pretty big cut in that, about 30%. He's completely eliminated rural development. But we are hopeful that with some negotiating we can get some more money filled into that. The problem with the budget is that there's so many pieces of the budget that are, I guess, concerning to us and probably a lot of other rural states. And so we're a little bit worried. Usually the budget comes out and we have some points that we're happy about and some points we're not happy about. Usually we're happier, we have a larger group of priorities that we're happy about that come out with the budget. This time around it's not like that. We have a lot of concerns about funding for Department of Interior, PILT, USDA, healthcare, Forest Service, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that the senator's going to be doing some, offense on. So we're not sure how that will play out. Towards the end of September will be the end of the fiscal year. So that's sort of a big issue for us right now. Also, the ACA is pretty concerning to the senator right now because of the major cuts it's making out of Medicaid. And I know you guys, like every county has, a substantial amount of people that are covered in Medicaid, either kids or elderly or your nursing home population. And that we've seen from the Montana Healthcare Foundation came out with a release last night. It looks like we're going to see about a 40% cut in that either reimbursements or people covered. So that's quite concerning.
Even without the passage of the,
So that would be with the passage.
Okay.
Without the passage, it would stay, it would stay the same. But with the passage of the current Senate bill, we would see some major cuts to Medicaid. And that would be the money that's coming down from the federal government. And then the state matches that about. But you guys, I don't know if you were keeping up the legislature this year, they had quite a bit of revenue shortfall this year. And so some providers are going to see, I think, about 3 to 5% cut in reimbursement rates, which is really concerning for small hospitals already. And so if the Senate bill does go through, we'll obviously see a drastic change in Medicaid spending. So that's kind of concerning to us. Also, the senator has a flag and I have a note for Deputy Moore's family. And so I didn't know if I should give it to you guys or if I should just go next door. Do they have contact with the family? The
Yes.
deputies or the sheriff's office? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. I did want to ask about how the invasive species and mussel program is going. Does that seem to be
Surprisingly.
it's not holding up
smooth.
traffic or?
Not yet, no, I was out there Sunday
Uh-huh.
and there was a line of two deep.
That's not bad.
No, The local boater program has been very successful. I do think we have fewer people on Canyon Ferry this
Yeah.
year. Don't think it affected the walleye tournament. I have not heard anything specific, but it sounds like they had quite a few people and the walleye they were catching were big
Oh, good.
this year. Yeah, so